Good morning, everyone. Today is September the 1st, 2019. Souls Harbor Full Gospel Church, 926 William Street, West Columbia, South Carolina. Reverend Dr. Kevin McClendon bringing you the word today. Subject, what do you do when you have done all you can? What a word today, and what a question today. What do you do when you have done all you can? Well, hopefully by the time the sermon is over, you have some answers on what to do. But if you would please turn briefly in your Bibles to 2 Kings chapter 4. 2 Kings chapter 4. And we're going to be dealing with verse 1 through 7. So again, 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 1 through 7. Before I read that, I just want to say, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you didn't know what to do? Some of us have found ourselves in that situation, even in a situation where we have to make a big decision, or even faced with a major crisis. Not only did you not know how you got into that mess, but you didn't know how you was going to get out of it either. Isn't that the truth? What I want to talk about in this text of 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 1 through 7, is that the woman was caught in the net of life's contradictions. And I'm referring to the Shunammite woman. And it says a certain woman. It didn't give her name. It just said a certain woman. And she was caught in life's dilemma. She's in the midst of a crisis. Oftentimes we find ourselves in the midst of a crisis. She's coming face to face with the challenges and contradictions. As I read chapter 4, verse 1 through verse 7, the Bible declares, and it reads like this: Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elijah, saying, Thy servant my husband is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord, and the creditor is come to take unto him my two sons to the bondman. Now we know that to be a fact. A lot of times when people pass away, the creditor's after you, after your family member, and it goes on and on and on. And sometimes it even gets as far into your estate. So we can relate to that. Verse 2, And Elijah said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? And she said, Thine handmaid have not anything in the house, save a pot of oil. She had very little in the house, so she thought at least she had in the house that was anything of value. Then he said, Go borrow the vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, bar not a few. Verse 4, and it reads, And when thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and shalt pour out into all those vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full. So she went from him and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. And it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more, and the oil stayed. Last verse, verse 7. And in the Bible declares in verse 7 of chapter 4, in 2 Kings, Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, Go sell the oil and pay thy debt and live, my God, and live, and thou and thy children of the rest. And live. She thought she didn't have anything valuable. But guess what? Oftentimes, even today, a lot of us think we don't have anything valuable. We don't know how we're going to get out of what we're in. But again, my topic today is, what do you do when you have done all you can? What do you do? The first thing you do is common sense. You ask. What do you do when you have done all you can? You ask. You have not because what? You ask not. Sister Trouty, we have not because we ask not. What do you do when you've done all you can? You open up your mouth and you ask. It's been said that desperate times calls for desperate measures. How desperate are you? How hungry are you? Desperate times calls for desperate measures. You see this woman, she's a widow. In the midst of such a time, her husband had died. We just read in verse 1 that her husband died. Think about it. She's a widow. She's in a vulnerable place, a vulnerable position. She's a widow, and a lot of widows are in a vulnerable place. They're not used to living by themselves. They're not used to being alone. They're not used to having their helpmate. They're in a place, a vulnerable place. Sometimes when you're in a vulnerable position, you make poor choices. You are open to different voices. You can't clearly hear the voice of God because you're in that vulnerable place. What do you do when you've done all you can? But in 2 Kings chapter 4, this woman comes to Elijah with a request. She doesn't know what to do. That's her request. She doesn't know what to do, so she went to the man of God. She didn't know what to do. When you don't know what to do, you ask. The answer is simple. When you don't know what to do, you ask. To cry out, which literally means help. To cry out is to say to God, I need you to come to my rescue. God, I need you to come to my aid. Some of us today need to cry out to God and say, I need you. In coming to Elijah the prophet, she is in effect seeking out God himself through Elijah, saying, I need help. Sometimes we can do everything right and still need help and do not know what to do. We can do everything right. We can pay our tithes. We can pay our offering. We can sow seed or alms. We can do everything right and still have trouble in our life. But what do you do when you've done all you can? We have to remember, Prophet Simmons, that every case is a God's case. Not some cases, but all cases, Sister Trouty, are God cases. When we don't know what to do, turn it over to God. Sister Dorothy, while we are trying to figure it out, Brother Jordan, guess what? God has already worked it out. Sister Raquel, while you sitting there trying to figure it out, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to make it, what are they going to do tomorrow, where I got to go. Guess what, girl? Don't waste your time. God has already worked it out. God has worked it out. Sometimes he's working behind the scenes. While we getting gray hair, having to use dye and make it black as we can, God has already worked that thing out. Stop staying up all night worrying about something that you can't fix. If you're going to play God, you don't need him. Stop trying to play God and let God work. Let him move in your life. When you don't know what to do, sometimes you have to let pride go. Some of us so full of pride, we won't let pride go and admit, Brother McClendon, I need help. Let that pride go and humble yourself. Go to God in prayer. Release it. Place it on the altar. That's what this is. This is an altar cross here. Place your need on the altar and release it and leave it there. If you're going to come up here and put your need on the altar, please don't take it back to your seat with you. Leave it on the altar. Are you too proud to cry out to God for help? That's the question, Prophet Simmons. That's right. We can't be too proud to cry out to God for help. Hallelujah. Because he's our helper. Not only is he our helper, guess what, Sister Betty? He's our keeper. If you want to be kept. Some people don't want to be kept. They want to go around and do any and everything they're big enough to do. But if you truly want to be kept, guess what? God is a keeper, and he will keep you.
That's right.
To where do you go? To whom, or what do you do when life tumbles in on you? We run to all kinds of things, Sister Travis. We run everywhere. We run to Johnny. We run to Susan. We pick up the phone and call every girlfriend we got and tell her all our business. And then guess what? When we hang up, she calls somebody else and tell them all of your business. We run to all kinds of things. We run to everybody except God. And that's who we should run to first. We even run to the advice columns. We run and get on that phone like I just said. We run to every distraction. And in so doing, we actually cut ourselves off from God. Does that make sense? You can tell me, then I tell somebody, then that person tells somebody. Before you know it, they got the story twisted. They got all your business out there in the street. Oh, look at Jordan. Look what he did. Look, oh, we heard Jordan did. What? Oh, girl, this is juice. I got something to tell you, juice about Jordan. Next thing you know, this man's character his character is destroyed because of one bad word. Somebody got on the phone and told somebody something that wasn't even true. Wasn't but a big lie, and then this man's character is assassinated. Destroyed his character that quick. The problem is, though, that we look at God and we look at him as our last resort. And we should look at God as our first resort. When you don't know what to do, you simply ask God to come to your aid. Lord, I need you right now. Spirit of the living God, come with haste. Make haste to deliver. Fight with the word. You have to fight with the word. The word of God is our weapon. Fight with the word. Sister Travis, cry out to God for help. The first thing I gave you, you have to ask. You have to drop that pride and ask. You can't be sitting in your seat, well, man, I know this is happening. I know this is happening. And I'm sitting here and won't even ask the man of God for prayer. And I walk out of that door and commit suicide. And I could have helped you through the power of God. And you walk right out of the door and your need wasn't met. Like I said, when this service first started, the purpose of this church is to meet the needs of the people. Now, certainly we can't meet every financial need a person has because we're not Bank of America. I want to make sure I get that on camera. We are not Bank of America. We are not the government services. But what we will do, we'll pray and pray and pray and pray until something happens. And we'll lead you in the right direction where to go get help. The first thing I told you to do, you need to ask and come off your high horse full of pride. The second thing you need to do is to listen. Sometimes you have to take the only thing left to give it back to God. Will we listen to divine instructions? Some of us will, some of us won't. Or will we look at our circumstances as the things that would distract us from divine instructions? There are all kinds of voices out there, Sister Travis, all kinds of voices out there that we can listen to, whether they help us or not. But I want to listen to the voice of God. Mm-hmm. Will we listen to divine instructions? Will we? When the circumstances are desperate and dire, where will we turn, Sister Raquel? Where will we turn, Sister Letta? To whom will we listen, Sister Betty? First, I want to say a couple of things about listening. Some of you are listening to me right now. Some of y'all done tuned me out already. And I'm only like 10 minutes into my 20-minute sermon. First of all, the problem isn't an issue of whether God is still speaking. In fact, God is still speaking, Sister Travis. The problem is we're not listening. We're not even listening to what he's saying through his word and through his witness, which is the Holy Spirit. God speaks to us through men and women and through his service, which bring our lives instructions and guide us and counsels us. God even speaks to us through the testimony of the church, through people who counsel us, through the pastor, through the body of Christ. There are so many different ways that God can speak to us. The question isn't whether God is still speaking. The question is really whether or not you are listening. There is a difference between listening and hearing. You might be listening to me, but do you hear me? There's a big difference. You can listen to me and not hear me. It's not going to do you any good when you walk out the door and trouble hits you, and then you call my phone, and I'm going to say, was you listening to me or did you hear me? Did you hear what the Spirit of the Lord was trying to tell you today? Did you hear it? First thing you have to do, going back, you have to ask, and then you have to trust. Do you believe that today? What do you do when you've done all you can, Sister Dorothy? That's a question, because most of us in here are in a situation where we have done all we can. We like at the end of our rope, we have prayed, we have fasted, we have paid our tithe, we have did everything humanly possible. And God still haven't moved for us. At least we don't think he has, but guess what? Everything God is going to do for you is already done. It's already done. The book is already written. But I'm here to tell you today, decree and declare that this is not how the story ends. Stay faithful to God. Don't give up on God. Because your miracle haven't popped up and showed out. Don't give up on God. Keep on living and trusting. What's in your hand, like the woman, the Shunammite woman, what's in your hand may be all that you have in your hand. It's a little pot of oil, Sister Betty. Maybe all you're holding on to is a handful of hope. If God is who we say he is, Miss Betty, guess what? He's going to show up for us. He's going to come through. God can do what he said he will do. There's no doubt about it. So we must have, even though we just had a little pot of oil and a handful of hope, maybe that's even more than enough right there. But sometimes we need to exercise our faith, believe God, and trust in him. We can say it out of our mouth easily. Oh, I believe God. I trust him. But do you really? Everyone, please stand for 1 minute, please. Please stand to your feet. Then just have a seat. You all just exercise your faith. You had enough faith in that pew or in that bench that it was going to hold you when you sat down. That's the only kind of faith. That's all the faith you need in God. It's the faith of a grain of a mustard seed. You didn't hesitate to stand up and you didn't hesitate to sit down, knowing without a doubt that that pew was going to hold you. That's faith. It took faith to do that, because if not, you already collapsed and been on the floor. So I want you to trust God. Get the mentality to stop trusting man and trust God. What do you do when you've done all you can? Another thing you can do is keep on praying. Pray until something happens. Don't stop praying because you don't see the results you're looking for. God operates in his own time. His time is not your time. Don't give up and don't give out today. I just come to encourage you today. Hold on to Jesus. Hold on to his unchanging hand. Stop murmuring. Stop complaining. Keep trusting God. Go in God. What do you do when you have done all you can? You keep doing what you're doing. That's what you do. Trust God. Live for him. Honor God. Do good. And keep on holding on to God's unchanging hand. That's what you do. You don't get discouraged. You don't start running the pastor down. You don't start running the prophet down. Look in the mirror and blame yourself if you want to blame somebody. By all means, don't blame the preacher. Don't blame the prophet. Look in the mirror. I'm telling you out there in the YouTube land, look in the mirror. Don't blame the pastor. Don't blame the prophet. Well, he prayed for me and I didn't feel anything. That's not my fault. I'm not God. I'm just his vessel. I'm just a conduit that he uses, that flow through. But I'm not God. I can't work a miracle for you, but I can lead you to the man who can. And today I'm grateful, because what do you do when you have done all you can, Sister Trouty? What do you do?
Praise God.
Praise him. Amen.